Alright, welcome to Packet Tracer Activity 612, resolving discontiguous network problems. So we've got our network here, and this is our IP addressing scheme that you'll need to refer to when you're going through it. So all we have is RIP version 2 with auto summarization on for these networks. We're going to look at the traffic, and then we're going to disable the auto summarization and look at that. So we have our topology with the discontiguous sub-networks. Auto summarization, of course, is the default when configuring RIP version 2. But in this, with the discontiguous network, the auto summarization is messing up our traffic and not allowing it to go where it needs to go, or just not being quite so efficient. This is just information about how it's configured. But if we look at task 2, where we're verifying connectivity, so I've already gone through this and verified that it can ping the R1. We can try one here. So this is SE000 is 209.165.202.245. I'm going to forget that. So you can always go back to this page and see the addresses. And you can see the exclamation points means that it did connect, so that's 5 out of 5. So that looks good. So that's how you would check on all those, but I've gone through this one, I've checked them all, and they all look good. Just need to make sure that your hosts and printers configure their default gateways, which they should be able to. We want to mainly look at step 3 here, because this gives you some indication that something's going a little bit wrong. So I've already gone through this and written these out for some illustrations. So the first one is, can R1 ping the FA00 interface on R2? So that's right down here. So when you do it, the pings come up like this, where you'll get an exclamation point that says yes, and then you get 2 periods that say no, and then yes and no and yes and no, and it just goes back and forth like that. So it's like 1 out of every 3 gets there. And it's the same thing with pinging the R3 and the R4. It gets 1 out of 3. It gets 1 good one and then 2 bad ones. And it was the same thing going from R1 to host, this host on R3, and then pinging a host on R4. It actually gave me this one, which I'm thinking the U is unreachable, but it was giving me a U sometimes instead of the period, but it was still every 3rd one was pinging successfully. So that lets you know that something is not quite right. So if we move on to the next page, we can look at routing tables. So this is R1, and you can do show IP route. So you can see when we're trying to reach, let's go back and look at this. So we are trying to reach 40.33 on the R2 is what we were trying to ping. But if you see, here's the network for that one. It's 40 40.0/24. So when it sends to that one, it goes to this, and you can see that there's 3 different ways it could go. And these are going to each of the 3 routers. So every time you're sending that ping from this router, it's sending it to all 3 of these. 2 of them end up going nowhere because there's no host, and then the one where the host actually is sends back the successful response. So that's where you get the 1 out of 3. And then we can look at R2. And you can see the routing table there. So the question is, let's say that router 2 is sending a packet to 40.98. What outgoing interface would it be sent on? So it would be sent on this one here. But the thing is, we've got this connection right here, but there's no actual connection, so there's no way it could reach that 40.98, because this is a 40.32/27, which means you could send it to 40.32 through 40.63, but sending it to 40.98 isn't going to reach it. So if we look at R3, we can see that we've got a couple different ways it's going. So it's just kind of doing some weird things, sending stuff it doesn't really need to go. And then again, we're trying to send it to 40.98, and we've got 40.0/27, which would be 0 to 31, so it won't be able to reach 40.98. And then looking at this one, this one's going to 40.0/27. This wants us to reach 40.34, so that's not going to reach that one either. And you can always test those. And you'll see it'll come back 5 periods because it's not going to be able to route traffic to that address. So moving on, we are going to first disable auto summarization in all the routers. So we can go router rip and do no auto summary. And one more. Alright, so now once we've done that, we can look at the routing tables again. And you can see now we've got more routes for everything here. So we got .32, .64, .96, which is all each one of those is the network address of these LANs. So now we've got those added to it. If we look at this one, you can see now we will be able to get to the networks that we are looking for, because we've added these two, or we've added all three of these in there. It's not summarizing them into one big network anymore. It's keeping them separate. And those two are just going to be like the others. So we can go from router 1 trying to ping R2 host A, so there you go. Now we're getting 5 bars there. And we want to ping all the host A's in each one to make sure it all looks good. And that's 40.98, which we were trying to get to before, and you can see we've got 100% there. So that should be it. You can see how those routing tables, how they break up this network. So the R1 router knows where to send it because these three now have it in the routing tables to where they should be sending it, instead of all lumping it into the same one, because when they're all lumped together then it was just sending it to all three of them because it had no better directions. So that's why you do not in most cases want auto summarization on a discontiguous network. Thank you very much for watching.